All right, welcome everyone. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is going to be the Jazz Piano School podcast, episode number 225. My name is Brendan Lowe, and I'm not recording yet, but I tend to go through my little spiel automatically. So just getting things kind of situated here. And for all of you, hey, Erica from Germany, awesome. Sam, how you doing? 7:30 over there. Wow, that's awesome. That's too early for jazz, but I congratulate you. I commend you. David, hey, Chicago, good to see you. I'm glad you're checking this out, David. And Trevor, obviously, how you doing? Vanessa. Oh, Vanessa, hey, how you doing? Vanessa is well, I know her. So good. Tell Steve I say hello. And I hope he's doing well, and I can't wait till Corona ends so that I can see him again. That's all I'll say about that. So, DL Reed from Eugene. Hey, DL. So, thank you guys all so much for being here today. What I'm going to cover in today's podcast is going to be a cacophony of things because the cocktail style is complex, to say the least. Hey, Suzanne. And the thing about it is there's so many topics within it. And to be honest with you, hey, Andy, I didn't really come across this word or this phrase like cocktail style until, I don't know, it wasn't until like a couple years ago, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Hey, Ronald. Hey, Debbie. Thanks for being here. And it's a strange word because the cocktail style, it's not really a jazz style. It's not really, it kind of just took on its own form. Like, I think someone must have said it like, oh, I want to learn how to play like those cocktail pianists, right? But in jazz, we don't really refer to it as cocktail style, but somehow it's kind of taken on this form of a style. And what you're going to learn today is that within the cocktail style, there's actually lots of specific, jazz styles that are going into this whole world that people call cocktail. I usually don't refer to it as cocktail, but a lot of people do. So I'm using that lingo. I'm learning the lingo that people use, right? When they describe what this is, what this thing is. And again, for the most part, it's what you hear when people go and play gigs by themselves. Like when I have a gig and I'm playing solo piano, right? And I'm just kind of flowing through pieces. I'll get into all of that, but that's that kind of flowy atmosphere where you're kind of having a drink and there's a cocktail pianist obviously sitting at the piano. No one's really paying attention to me. I mean, him or her. Just kidding. But literally, like, people are like hearing the background music as we're playing, and everyone's having their drink, maybe at the cocktail hour for weddings, things like that. Whatever it is, right? And the lounge music, right? Lounge piano, David. Yes, perfect. And so if you're at a lounge or some sort of bar or, like anywhere, they have a pianist to set the mood and the atmosphere, and they're not playing, like burning stuff because it's about setting an atmosphere, right? It's about setting kind of this mood, this feeling for the people there. You're not really meant to be the spotlight. So you're kind of playing underneath, you're playing softly, you're playing beautifully. And again, a lot of different things are going into it. So, hey, Bruce, good to see you. Gert, hey, thanks for joining us. So I'm going to talk about those things today, and I'll get into it really soon, but I just want to give all of you guys a little bit more background information. In the podcast, I try and narrow it down a little bit for the people watching because they're there to get the information. Like you can always rewatch the videos. If anyone's new on here, you can go to jazzpianoschool.com. You can rewatch the recordings of these, but all of the stuff that I'm talking to you about now is cut out because we edit the podcast, so it's just the meat and potatoes of the learning lesson. The whole Q&A that I do at the end, that's also cut out. So the best way to get help from me during the podcast is to show up here live and and just learn, So that's about it. If you guys are new, Go to jazzpianoschool.com. Check out all the amazing information that we have there. Obviously, we do have a membership. And right now, I've put so much work into the behind the scenes, into the membership area of Jazz Piano School. As of late in 2020, I was working so hard throughout the entire year to get our new platform up. And it is now up, and we're making tweaks and improvements on that every single day throughout the weeks. But I'm really focusing on organizing all of the content, courses, and education that is available so that you can get more of that, find out more information on the public side of things. Like the public website has been mainly free information, but it really hasn't explained or gone much in depth about everything that Jazz Piano School has to offer. So anyway, that's my short plug. Mr. Wonder Waffles, hey, how you doing? I love the name. Mike, hey, thanks for joining us. Special requests all night. Yes, bring your fake book, exactly. All right, so this is going to be episode 225. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to record the episode. And after we're done, I'll do a Q&A for everyone here. So definitely stick around till the episode is finished recording, and then I will answer any and all questions that you have. If you have questions during the filming of this, just go ahead and type them in the chat. I won't get to them until after I'm done filming, but I will have a list of questions to go to right after I'm done recording, and that way I can just go bada bing, bada boom, and just start answering all your questions. So don't be shy. Just seriously go ahead and type them in whenever they come up during the lesson. Again, I won't be addressing them until after. Okay? Just grab some water here real quick. And I'm going to try and do a couple different things today. Hopefully it works out all right. But all right, here we go. All right, welcome to the Jazz Piano School podcast, episode number 225. This is going to be on cocktail piano. And in today's episode, I'm going to be pulling back the curtain to cocktail piano, what it is, how do you play it, right? And kind of demystifying it, because you always hear it, obviously when you go to get a drink or something like that at a bar, at a lounge, and they're doing all these different things, but it can be obscure how to learn that actual style, right? So thank you so much for being here. My name is Brendan Lowe, creator and founder of Jazz Piano School. If you're new to Jazz Piano School, go to jazzpianoschool.com. Check out all of the free education that we have available for you. And I have a live audience right here watching me film this particular podcast. If you're interested in being a part of the live audience, go to jazzpianoschool.com/live podcast, jazzpianoschool.com/live podcast. And you can get the links to being a member on the live podcast recordings like you're watching right now. That will allow you to ask me questions, get access to the Q&A after, and interact with me so I can help you in a much more intimate sort of way. All right. With that being said, let's dive right into the lesson. Here we go. So I'm sitting at the piano. Before I get to the piano in just a second, I just need to explain a couple things about cocktail piano. Now, I'm going to explain to you 3 different points today. 3 different points, okay? So listen very closely. Point number 1 is that I'm going to be going over 4 different styles, okay? 4 different styles that kind of come together to make up the sound, the atmosphere that cocktail piano is. 4 different styles. Number 2, I'm going to be going over a method that creates the flowy atmosphere and sound that you hear that kind of fills the space, that kind of gives it that like motiony, oceany vibe. Motiony, oceany. I just came up with that. Point number 3, I'm going to be going over fills. I'm going to be going over fills, specifically what to use, when to use them, and why we're using them, everything kind of around fills. Now, I can't get to everything regarding this. I'm going to touch briefly on these points because there's so much that goes into cocktail piano, but I want you to leave this episode knowing a couple different things. Knowing that there's lots of different elements and tools that make up cocktail piano, right? It's not just one thing. Like what I'm going to do is pull back the curtain and break it down into a lot of the different elements that are happening that go in and ultimately create the sound that you hear when you say cocktail piano or when you go into a lounge and you hear that pianist doing his thing, right? His or her thing. When I am playing a solo gig, I'm using all these components to do it. Okay? So point number 1, let's go to the piano. So like I said, there's 4 different styles I'm going to teach you about today. Style number 1, okay, is going to be the in-tempo ballad playing. Now, like I said, if I were to go and play a tune like My Romance, right? Now that kind of sounds cocktaily, right? But there's a lot more that can start to happen. Now, the first style I want to teach you about is just I don't want to say bland because it's very beautiful, but just the simple style of playing a ballad in time with a tempo and with a pulse. Now, by doing and playing a piece like this, it doesn't really come off flashy. Check it out. So if I were to count myself in and play My Romance as written, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Right? That's not usually what you hear in the lounges, right? So you may hear something more along the lines of this, okay? And now I'm not going to count myself off. I'm just going to play here, though. Right? So there is a huge difference between what I just played the first time and what I just played the second time. So you need to understand that there is a time and a place for every component that I'm about to teach you. So style number one that you need to understand is that ballads and tunes, ultimately, you can get them to a place where you're playing them with a tempo, but they have a little bit more flair than just going like this. This is just an in-tempo ballad without any fills. I'm just playing the chords, excuse me. Playing in time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Now your learning starts there. Your learning has to start there because before I get to anything else that I'm about to teach you, that is the basis. That's the foundation of the cocktail style. And when I say cocktail style, again, it's really just a ballad style. I'm going to teach you 4 ballad styles right now. So I've just taught you one of them. That's just a regular, simple ballad style. Now I can do that with any tune. My Foolish Heart, right? 2, 3. I'm just playing as simple as possible. Right? Just simple, straight ballad playing. That's it. Now, I was doing a little bit of embellishment and kind of things that made it pop a little bit, but not much, okay? So that's going to be style one, and you want to practice your tunes like this, right? And as far as all the voicings and things like that, I'm not going to go into that right now, but just practice tunes however you need to at the level you're at. So if you're at a very big beginner level, let's go to the very basic level. I would play this tune like this, just root position chords in my left hand and melody in my right hand. Check it out. Root position here. I'm just playing all root position chords. Now here's a sus chord, so you can do this if you want, or you can go E minor 7 to A7. Right? That's where a lot of beginners would start. And then as you start to progress your ballad playing, and if you use some of the jazz piano school materials, right, you'll learn that you want to take your shells and put them underneath your melody note and play your left hand bass over here. So then the transformation would sound like this. Instead of having root position chords in your left hand, now you have shells underneath your melody with bass note in your left hand. Check out how the sound changes. Shells, shells. Melody. Shells. Shells. Melody. Shells. Right? Shells. Now, do you hear the difference there? Like, that's an immediate, instant improvement. That's a drastic change between just playing root position chords and moving to the point where you're adding your shells underneath your melody note. Now, these are stepping stones that I teach in my solo piano process, but again, I'm just kind of outlining these so you have an understanding of how you can progress this one simple style that I'm teaching you. Okay, so that's going to be style 1. That's going to be the straight ballad style with tempo, Ballad style number 2, okay, is going to be a ballad style sans tempo, without, right? So no tempo. Now, this is usually a lot of what you hear in the lounges. So it sounds something like this. If I do a little intro to My Romance, right? It may be... right? Now, what I'm doing here, there's a lot that I'm going to get into, okay? There's a lot. I'm just pointing out the style. I want you to have an understanding of the style, okay? Don't worry about the fills or the harmonies that I'm playing. I'm going to get into that later, but just listen to the difference in the style. I went from the first style was an in-tempo ballad, 1, 2, 3. You can hear the pulse, right? I'm not going out of tempo here. This is all in tempo. Now, what I just played was all out of tempo, and that's usually the style that you're hearing in the lounges, in the cocktail piano. Now, that's not to say it does not go into tempo at some point. I do this a lot. So I may be flourishing, right? Here's my intro again. So I'm still out of tempo. Now, I'm embellishing a lot here just to give you guys an understanding. Sorry. That's all out of tempo. Now, if I simplify things a little bit, let me take it down to more of a beginner level so I can show you the out of tempo style that you may be able to implement into your own playing, right? Shells. 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 Now, again, this is much simpler than I was just playing. Shells. So you can attempt to play ballads like this and give it a loungy feel simply by taking away the tempo. Now, again, there's more that I'm putting into this, and I'm going to go into that called feathering and breaking up your chords. That's going to be step 2, though, okay? But you just need to understand the 4 important different styles that are happening when lounge players are playing. This is going to be number 2. So usually when you hear someone noodling, it's over a tune, but there's no tempo. So I could do this again over My Foolish Heart. There's no tempo here. Still no tempo. Maybe I go into time here. Right, now I have time. Now I'm back to ballad style 1. Okay? So the understanding of all 4 styles is really, really important because it's going to give you clarity around which direction you want to focus on. Otherwise, you're just trying to learn a whole smorgasbord of all these different things that people start to call cocktail style. And that word is thrown around so much, and it's completely confusing to students about what it actually is, okay? So that's style number 2. Style number 3 is going to be, I'm going to get into stride. Now, a lot of time when I'm playing solo piano and cocktail stuff, you're going to hear some sort of stride element because it can hold the time and it can kind of create an orchestral effect, right? So let's take the tune, take the A Train, right? If I were to play stride on this, and I'm going to show you a bunch of different stride, but there's 2 types of stride, okay? And these are going to be the last 2 styles that I'm teaching you. And they're both different types of stride, right? So stride, okay, number 1 is going to be with pedal. This is super easy. Stride number 2 is going to be without pedal. So again, these are styles 3 and 4. Stride style number 3 is going to be with pedal. Stride style number 4 is going to be without pedal. Here is stride style number 3 with pedal, and I'm going to be demonstrating over Take the A Train. Right? So on and so forth. So I can use the stride style over any tune. I can still use it over My Foolish Heart. If I want to add a really, I wouldn't play My Foolish Heart at that tempo because here's our walking quarter note for the tempo I just played. 1, 2, that's really fast. But Take the A Train is more of a up-tempo tune. And if I want to take some sort of pop, like more of a faster tune and turn it into a loungy style, I don't have to play it like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like imagine if I was sitting at a gig and I started playing Take the A Train like that, people would be like, wow, this guy is just going for it, right? So no, I want to turn it into a moody atmosphere-y thing, okay? I'm creating a lot of new words here. Right? And then I can do all sorts of things. Sorry. Now that's with the pedal. Let's take another tune. So let's say I do Night and Day maybe. I'm going to go a little slower actually. 1, 2, 3. Now, again, this is the stride style. Again, this is another jazz style that is used to when people say cocktail style. Again, I keep putting it in quotes because it's not really a jazz style. It's a combination of a lot of jazz methods and jazz piano methods, but like it's these are all different styles. So that's going to be style number 3 is stride. And again, I can use that over anything. I could do Stella. Right? So that is going to be the stride style number 3. Now, number 4 is going to be without pedal. Okay, without pedal. So without pedal, right? It's the same exact thing, but it's just without pedal. So if I were to play any of the stride styles I just took, I can do exactly what I just did. Let's do Night and Day without pedal. Now, this is a stride style you may hear at a lounge as well, right? So all these different things kind of go into the cocktail style that people use and throw around as a word in playing, right? But again, it's going to be a mixture of a lot of different things, right? And so what happens is all these styles come together to create the atmosphere of whatever tune it is they're playing. And they're always kind of focused on some sort of tune, you know, that is going to be the focus of their tune, whatever it's a Broadway tune, you know, mostly a lot of times it's going to be show tunes, right? So that's going to be the 4 styles. That's going to be point number 1 I'd like to make. So again, you have ballad style in tempo. 1, 2. Now, I use this on my solo piano gigs, but again, it's not really what people think of when they hear cocktail style, right? Style number 2 is going to be ballad style out of time, though, with more flourishes, embellishments, right? Lots and lots of fluff and stuff, you know, and I don't play like that much. I mean, but you can go off into the stratosphere with all the embellishments and things like that. But when you think of Bill Evans, Keith, they're not really playing like that in their high levels of their solo piano. It's much more refined. It's much more elegant. It's much more specific, right? So that's going to be style number 2. Style number 3 and 4 are going to be stride with pedal and without pedal, right? So again, if I were to play My Foolish Heart, this is still stride, right? But it doesn't have the bouncy feel, right? So now I'm playing in time. I'm playing an in time, right? And it is stride, but it's more of just a moving process. Now the without pedal, okay, is going to be like this. Right? That's going to be no pedal. Okay, so that's a different sound. It's a different atmosphere I can extract from that particular style. All right, let's go to point number 2. So those are going to be the 4 styles. Point number 2 is to create the most popular known style that when someone says cocktail style, where it's like the robust stuff, you're going to want to feather, okay, or break up your chords. So in the tune My Romance, right, if I do this, okay, and I just play the ballad style I taught you with just a tempo, right? Without breaking up or feathering, it's going to sound like this. 2, 3, 4. Now again, kind of boring, kind of like watching paint dry, right? With feathering, and this is in the Bill Evans arrangement course that we have in Jazz Piano School, we're going to break up our harmonies so that they're kind of mixed and broken along your palette. Check it out. So I can do this. Let me give you an example first. Now, already there's like an extreme difference between me just going right? So what did I do there? So I went like this. So here's the melody. Now I took the same exact harmonies I would use in the tempo ballad, but I just broke them up. So instead of going like this is the same exact voicing. This is the same exact voicing. But I've now broken them up. I've feathered them so that I'm breaking them up. Right? Like this. Okay? So I'm going like this. So everything's broken up. You know, that's moved over top of the out of time feel. Again, I'm referring to style number 2 now. This is the ballad style without any time, and I'm breaking up all my harmonies so that no notes are falling really together. Maybe one, like 2 notes will come together. And again, I'm embellishing here a lot, the broken style. I wouldn't break everything up this much, but you can arpeggiate upwards from your chord if you're using a 1-10-7. This is going to be a left-hand solo piano component I teach at Jazz Piano School. Now you can go up or you can go down. Bill Evans loves to go down. And he also loves to go up. Yeah, he loves to do everything. Like if you checked out Bill's solo piano playing, and again, in our Bill Evans solo piano system, he's doing all these different things with left hand. It's even moving more than that. He's creating these amazing intricate lines, right, that are moving all over the place. So his left hand's going all over the place. That creates the fill. Now, I'm not even talking about right hand arpeggios or embellishments right now. I'm just purely talking about just the breaking of notes. So again, if I were to play Stella, instead of this, here's my first voicing over Stella. 1, 7, 10, flat 5, 7, natural 9, and then the melody. Now I can play Stella like this. And then I can go to this. Or I can do this. You hear the difference? And then I go to my melody. So here's the second part. So I have movements and breaking of my harmonies all over the place. Right? Now, is this easy? No. No, it's not easy. Like, this requires lots of other tools and techniques that I'm not even teaching you here. And that's why it's so hard for students to understand, like, how do you get to this point? There's so much that's going into these different types of processes, right, that kind of have to be learned to get here, right? The movements of these extensions, you know, what left-hand solo piano components am I using, right? How am I moving my melody? How am I harmonizing my melody? How am I picking my voicings? All of these questions go into it. Not even reharms. You know, I'm not even talking about runs yet or fills. But again, point number 2 is that I want to make is that the breaking of your harmonies is going to also create the cocktail style sound, right? The cocktail style sound. So if I'm breaking up my harmonies over any tune that you want to take, any tune, you know, you're going to create this sort of style. My Foolish Heart. And again, I'm taking chords that I would usually play. Instead of just playing a full chord here over the melody and the chord symbol, I'm just taking my voicing and breaking it up and literally choosing on the spot which note I want to play. Like, I'm just playing the melody. It doesn't matter. There's no order. It's completely up to you. I can go. So here's my chord over an A7 sus. Here's the melody. I can play this note, and then this, and then go to the bass, and then play the 7, and then add the 13. So I can go, right? Just like that. It doesn't matter. But as long as you break it up note by note, and then maybe you have like 1 or 2 spots where you play a dyad, right? Like I could do that. Or I could go. Right? And then if I resolve it to the A7 with a flat 13, so I can go. This is like super slow speed cocktail piano right here. And then if I speed it up, obviously. Okay, so on and so forth. So number 2 is going to be breaking up the style, breaking up the harmonies amongst your hands, however you want. And point number 3 for me to wrap up is going to be the fills. Where, when, how do we fill? Now, most of the time, your fills are going to be within the chords that you have. Now, there's a difference between fills and runs. Now, runs can come from a lot of different places. Arpeggios are a great place to start your runs. Now, you can immediately take the voicing that you're using. Maybe it's this. Right now, I can create a run that's like a flourish out of the voicing that I'm already using. Right, so I'm going. I'm literally just taking this voicing and arpeggiating it up the piano. Now, another good run is just the scale. Like, so I can just use the major scale. And then you want to kind of resolve it to the harmony if you can. That's going to help it flow better rather than just kind of running up the piano with that scale. So rather than me just ending the scale by itself, I can flow into the next chord, which is my E flat major. Right? And that kind of resolves the run so that you have some sort of resolution up in the area, right? Now the other, that's a separate thing. Those are runs and fills. Now the fills, those are arpeggiated runs, excuse me. But fills can be what I was showing you before. Now, number 2 and number 3, like I was saying, step number 2 with the breaking of your harmonies can also be fills. So I can fill the space by doing this. So here's the melody. It's just 2 notes. And when the melody sits on that half note, I can fill in between that for My Foolish Heart. That's it. That's the melody right there. Now, I fill. That's a fill right there. I'm sitting on a half note over here in my right hand pinky. That's a fill right there. And again, your fill can just be the broken of the harmonies. It can be you literally taking harmonies and breaking them up. Maybe that. Or it can be just playing some chords. You could play chords up here and just move them down in versions. Something like that. Now, the places that you want to use these fills or you want to move into a fill is going to be between the phrasing. So when you have holes in your melody, right? So for example, in Stella, that first note, 1, 2, 3, 4, you have a full measure of one note. Like clearly that's a point to fill. So you can arpeggiate the voicing that you choose. I just arpeggiated the same exact voicing that I chose in my right hand. So I'm going to arpeggiate this. Sorry. And I'm doing a crossover too to make it faster and easier. So I'm going right hand, crossing over. Here's my left hand. Now I'm starting with the B flat here. And then it's just the same voicing up top, right? And then I can arpeggiate this one. So I can go. So whatever voicing you choose, your run or your fill can just be a crossover of those same voicings, right? Now again, in Stella, we have 2 chords. Here's my first chord. And then maybe my A7, however you want to voice it. This is flat 13, sharp 11, flat 9. And then we have a new phrase. So I'm not going to embellish over the melody. I'm going to play that phrasing. Now I'm on to a new holding note. So now is my time to embellish. So, you know, however you want to do it. You can do your arpeggios, you can do your runs. Now again, you're probably like, wow, what the heck was that? All right, so again, the run I used here, that's just like a common, a lot of these runs are just common things that people develop, like licks, you know, like lines that you learned. And again, it doesn't have to be this way, but it can be things. You can make up your own run as well. I could go. That could be a run over my C minor 7. So I'm going 2 notes here. 2 notes here, D, C, this is the root, this is over my C minor 7, right? Now again, does this take a lot of technique and dexterity? Yes. Right? But again, I mean, it doesn't have to be like that. Just do your rolls. You can arpeggiate a root position chord. Like you can just arpeggiate a root position chord. Like that. And it'll sound beautiful. It doesn't have to be all this fancy stuff all the time, right? So in Stella, creative voicing, arpeggiate your right hand voicing and run it over. Play your next chord. Arpeggiate this right hand voicing. Separate, play your melody. Play your next chord. Play your new melody. Right? And then so on and so forth. And again, that's how it's going to work in every tune. My Foolish Heart. I'm holding, and then I'm filling. Then I'm going to play my melody. Melody, and then I'm going to flourish because I have nothing to play now. Melody. I'm holding again. Now I have nothing to play because I'm on a half note. I'm going to run up again maybe. Again, I'm on a dotted half note now on this melody, so I can do whatever I want here. And again, it's completely out of time so that I have full liberty to do whatever I want. Okay, and so again, my runs and my fills, right, can be a lot of different things. They can be arpeggios. They can be the broken feathering that I talked about in step number 2. I can just do this. It doesn't have to be flashy arpeggiated runs. It can just be broken fills. That's a lot of what Bill's playing is just broken feathering of arpeggios in the left hand going up or down. Right? So he's doing this. Right? That feathering. Right? His left hand might do something like this. And then he might go over his D flat 7 here. I'm playing a D flat sharp 11. Okay, 9 sharp 11. 1, 5, 9. I forget what I played. I think I did 3. Something like that. Right, now again, this is extremely complicated, but it doesn't have to be that. Right? Let's simplify it. I can just do this. I can do 3 notes. 1, 5, 3 over my D flat 7. And then to my C minor, here's my melody. 3, 5, 1. That's it. That's it. Okay? So again, I'm going to wrap this up to recap. Number 1, okay? There's 4 different styles that go into more or less, right? There's a lot more things that go into cocktail piano, reharms, movements, blending in and out of your tempo. But at the core of it, 4 different types of styles. A ballad style in tempo, okay? And essentially, that's just played in tempo without really any flourishes. 2. Right, now I'm adding some reharms and some extension movements. Right? That's number 1. Number 2 is going to be a ballad out of time, no time. So it's up to me to do whatever I want. This is completely out of time. Right? Style number 3 is going to be stride with pedal. And then out of without pedal. Maybe a little bit of blues, right? The style without pedal is definitely more of a gritty, dirty, kind of like digging in type of sound. It works very well with the blues. It works very well to kind of like give it some pop, some spice, right? But the style with pedal is going to be more elegant, more loungy. And again, they both can kind of serve. I've used both in my solo piano gigs at lounges and bars and stuff like that. So number 2 is going to be the broken or feathering, I call it, of harmonies. So don't play harmonies together. You want to break them up. Right? And you can choose any which way you want to do it. You can choose any note to go first. But what I recommend is picking your chord, the voicing you want to use, and then break it up however you want. And finally, number 3 was the fills. And I just want you to let you know that there's different ways to fill. You can fill with reharms, you can fill with arpeggiations, runs, or again, the fill of the feathering in step number 2 is a fill in itself. Right? Reharms are fills as well. Here's a reharm, 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 extensions, reharm, right? Or harmonization, you can call it kind of either one. All right, and then obviously you have your, different types of fills. Your runs, and those can be anything. They can be the scale. They can be arpeggiations, like I told you. Overlap your hands. Create your own. right? Or just, run up the piano with one chord. So I'm rolling a chord here, and then I'm rolling it again up the octave. And then I'm rolling it up again up the octave. Rolling, right? Or again, to keep it simple, just break up your harmonies, okay? So essentially, that's going to be a lot of, like I said, it's a cacophony of a lot of different elements, tools that make up this cocktail style that people are using this term now, right, to kind of describe lounge players and things like that. But so many different systematic processes go into creating the atmosphere. And when we kind of break it down into these little bite-sized elements, right? Now, granted, I didn't really go into how to do a lot of these because each one requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of exercise, practice, knowledge, theory about exactly what tools, what do you play in your left hand? Are you playing 1 and 7? Are you playing 1 and 3? Are you playing 1, 10 and 3? What's happening in your right hand? Are you using shells under your melody, right? Are you moving your shells? Are you creating melody with your left hand? There's so many things that go into each and every particular style. But after this podcast, again, my goal was to give you a little bit more of an insight or look into the word cocktail style piano so that you have more of an understanding of what it's about and what exactly is happening when a jazz pianist who plays at a lounge or plays at a bar and is trying to create an underlying atmosphere or mood music for the people that are there, as opposed to me. If I were playing a solo piano concert gig, I'm not going to play like I play in the lounge. Like, my goal at a lounge is to create a palette, a mood, an atmosphere for these people that are having a great time and drinking. Like, I'm not there to be the spotlight. When I play a solo piano concert, I am the spotlight, so I'm going to change a lot of my methods, my techniques, and my strategies. Okay. If you're looking for more information on jazz piano education, go to jazzpianoschool.com and obviously check out all the free education that we have to offer. If you're interested in taking the next step and getting access to the systems and processes that I talked about and mentioned in this particular podcast, go ahead and sign up for a membership and you'll get access to all of those. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day and happy practicing. All right, guys. That was it. Thanks so much. My voice was going at the end. So I think there was a lot of chat happening here while I was recording. But this is David's podcast suggestion. So if all you guys didn't know, on Monday I asked for podcast suggestions, and essentially I got a whole bunch of podcast suggestions, which was so awesome. And so this came from David. And so I'm recording his podcast suggestion today, and I'm going to go down the list of podcast suggestions that I got. And so, so David, let me take your questions first, just because I know this was for you specifically. Let me see if I can scroll back. Question: cocktail pianists and those like you make it look so easy seem to have a vast, infinite repertoire. Is it just a matter of time learning all these songs by memory over time? Yes, it's definitely, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. I've been playing lots and lots of tunes for my entire life, and I've played lots and lots of gigs. And on gigs or even at home, I forced myself to not bring a real book and to memorize the tune. And again, one of the amazing mini courses and pieces within Jazz Piano School in the main curriculum Success Path is the 6-step learning tune process that I highly recommend everyone moves through in order to learn a tune so that you never forget it. And it's been one of the things that has helped me so much when learning tunes, is breaking up the tunes into these 6 steps. So David, I know you're an elite member, so you can go check out the 6-step tune learning process mini course. And it's also, obviously, you've probably checked it out before, but it's also in the beginning of the Success Path curriculum as well. Let me see. There was a lot of chat going on here, so I'm just trying to filter through this. David, you're so welcome, David. I'm glad you got a lot out of it. Any suggestions how to break into getting lounge gigs? Not that's the most prestigious piano school, but has always been a fantasy. Great. That's amazing. And I just want to let you guys know, a lot of what you saw me do is, this is the high, like a highest level that you would strive to be, right? And I don't want to diminish anyone's playing at all, because simple, beautiful melodies of any tune is my bag. Like, that's what I'm about. I actually never play like a lot of the styles that you just heard me play. Like, I'm really about simplicity. So if I were to play, you know, My Romance, I wouldn't play it like that. I mean, that's not who I am. I'm more of a simple person. So I would try and play more like Keith, like Brad, just in these amazing, beautiful ways. So, you know, think about ways you can change the harmony just by using different registers. You may go here, you know, and go at a time. It doesn't have to be in time. Now this is more on the simple side. Right? So, you know, that was much more on the basic side, and I kind of find a middle ground when I'm playing gigs and stuff like that in between that. But again, the flourish is like, there's spices, you know? So if you're pouring spices into your food, you're dumping a whole bunch of salt, a whole bunch of pepper, cayenne, you know, cinnamon, like it's too much, right? It kind of just floods your playing, right? And a lot of lounge players that I hear, not to make judgments, but I love the beautiful, simple melodies. Like, it's really difficult to make a melody sound beautiful and just play it the way that it's written, right? That's a challenge in itself. Like, not to mention, you know, adding all the fills, that's a whole nother layer, but just try and strive for beauty in the simplicity of playing a melody. And that's amazing. I mean, that's what's going to move people, you know? The flashy stuff is for impression, right? To impress people. But the beauty of the music, that's what moves the soul when you're playing. It's not really the flashiness. That's just kind of for show. What else we got here? So James Watson, hey, so glad you can make it. I know people were talking about singing. I'm not a singer, so I can't do that. But I play in the vocal accompaniment mastery course inside Jazz Piano School. I accompany a lot of singers and talk about the lounge feel for that. And how to do that, but I'm not a singer myself. Let me see what other questions we got here. I think being able to play, a lot of people are talking about, you guys were talking about singing over playing. Let me see. All right, and again, if you guys have more questions about anything that I talked about, let me know right now. Ray, hey Ray, what is the way to figure out what to play, a practical approach in feathering fills to a chord? Yeah, no, I know who you are, Ray. That's awesome. So where would you look in JPS to find that? Okay, so Ray, the feathering actually, you want to check out, David asked this too. So the places inside of Jazz Piano School for the members, you want to check out a couple different areas. So the solo piano system specialty course is really, really great. Now, again, inside the main course curriculum success path, you're going to get little bits and pieces of this, but go to the solo piano system and check out the ballad styles on that. Now, it's not really focused on feathering, but you're going to learn a lot about the arrangements of your voicings. Now, after you have your voicings down, like you can kind of spot check exactly what you're going to play, then you can start to work on your feathering. Now, to work on the feathering and the brokenness of your notes, go to the Bill Evans course. The Bill Evans course is going to be the best way for you to learn the feathering and the breaking of what's happening in your left hand. And again, just to give you some quick practical advice here, take a chord and like harmonize the tune that you're working on with all chords on the downbeats of where the chords fall. For example, My Romance, chord, melody, chord, melody, chord, melody, chord. So let's say I take those four measures right there, right? I have chords falling on the downbeats where the chords are written in the chart. Okay, memorize that. Write it out if you want. You don't have to write it out, but just memorize what you played. So I played this. Chord, melody, chord, melody, chord, melody, chord, melody, chord, right? Then Step number 2, take those chords and feather them. Break them up, right? So instead of this is my first chord, I'm going to play my melody and break it up in different ways. Practice breaking it up in different ways. So I can go. So I can do this. And again, any combination of your chord works. This is why it's so amazing to do. Like any combination works. I can do that. I can do this. Did I just play that? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? And then I'd move to my melody, and then I'd move to my next chord, excuse me. Now again, depending upon the chords and the voicings you come up with, your feathering, your breaking is going to sound different. So if I choose to harmonize like this, and then I go to this, right? This is going to be a different feathering than what I just played, right? So create an arrangement. You don't have to do the whole piece, but maybe four bars. And, pick your chords, right? And then break them up, right? And break them up. So again, go to the solo piano system, go to the ballad style area. And in the solo piano system, go to the Bill Evans course as well. And I know there was one of the 7-step solo piano arranging mini course is great as well for figuring out your voicings and how to do that. All right, David, you had some questions here. Masters of Simplicity. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like hearing Brad Mehldau play some of his ballads, like he's doing, if you look at the transcription, it's so underwhelming. But it's about the intricacies in the attention to detail of the movement. Same with Keith. I mean, his playing on his ballads is like mind-blowing, right? But when you analyze it, I mean, there is a lot happening, but like not that much. There's not many like fills and runs and stuff like that we usually think about as being impressive. It's more when the notes come in and what kind of like arrangements of his notes is he playing. It's amazing. Obviously, how he plays it is incredible as well. Any advice on how to get a lounge gig? Is it just going to hotels and lounges and asking the manager if I can play? Yeah, that's that's hard. It's really hard. If you're not kind of like, if you're not branding yourself as a musician, like if you don't have a musical website and you don't have recordings and you don't kind of like have your own brand as a musician, and like you can demonstrate to the managers that you are a legit kind of like person working as a pianist, it's really hard to get hired. And these days people will go to your website. If you're calling up people, managers, like I said, and that they hire music there and you want to get booked, I don't really have to try that much. I get calls, to play, and there's places around here that know me. So, but when you're breaking into the scene, yeah, I mean, you want to kind of position yourself as a player. So I would recommend getting some materials together, some recordings of yourself and some full piece, some video promos probably. And I know it's a lot of work, but like if you're truly aspiring to play in lounges or bars or get gigs, where you're playing solo piano, start small too. Play for free. Tell people you'll play for free at breakfast. I saw someone using kind of some backing tracks at a small breakfast area I went to eat brunch with, and it was fantastic. It was an older gentleman who was doing it for fun, clearly, and he'd been playing for years and loved it, and he was just doing it for fun, but do it for free, right? And then film yourself. Ask if you can film yourself playing. Use that content and put together some promo videos, some recordings, and then start to find the areas in wherever you live that do have music, and send it out to them. Send a video clip, like send an email, and then just put the link to your video clip in there. Be like, hey, this is a little sample of my playing. Would you be interested in having me? I know there's been other pianists there before. I would be willing to come and play, and I'd love to do that for you. So that's kind of how you do it. And again, the more you just keep trying, you're gonna get a lot of no's before you get a yes. That's all I got to. I was contacting like every place in Boston when I used to live in Boston. When I got to Sacramento, I would contact everybody in Sacramento. I was going on Craigslist, and I did a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't want to do. Like I played at places with nobody there, one person there. But I used all those experiences and contacts to build up. It's really about building up your kind of reputation in your area, and eventually you'll get different calls and gigs based on, you know, the contacts that you have and people that have referred you. Jason, yeah, the Bill Evans course is very in depth. So there's two parts to that. The first part is taught by Dr. Joe Gilman, who's an amazing jazz pianist in the area who played with Bobby Hutcherson for a long, long time. I'd highly recommend you check him out on Spotify. He has a great Stevie Wonder album, which is my favorite, and we kind of substitute gigs here in Sacramento and around the Bay Area as well. So he teaches the first part, which is kind of more of a simple technique and method that he's created to harmonize tunes in the style of Bill Evans. I teach part number 2. And in part number 2, I go into a lot of Bill Evans stuff. I go into a deep dive into his left hand, his feathering, his motions, his runs in his left hand, his voicings, his favorite voicings that he likes to use, spreads, medium voicings, clusters. I go into his reharm movements. I go into his reharms. I go into his sound creation, right? On how you're creating the sound to resemble Bill. Like, what did he do? What did he love to do? And why does he sound like Bill? Like, why do we love his playing? And there's specific tools and techniques that he uses time and time again that make him sound the way he does. And that's with everybody. Like, Chick sounds the way he does because of certain techniques. Oscar Peterson, all these guys play the same techniques and methods over and over and over again. And once you learn them, you can really create the sound of these specific people, right? So yeah, Jason, to answer your question, it goes in depth into the reharms that Bill used, what he liked to do, the motions, the extensions, the movement of extensions that he was using. It's very in depth. If you're interested in purchasing a course, I'm actually working on the public course pages right now to give everyone more information on that. But just shoot me an email and I can give you a link to the checkout page if you're looking to get the course. His improvisation, I'm not sure if you're asking me if that's it, but it's a lot of his voicings, his improv, his left hand, his voicings, the sound, how he creates the sound as far as the extensions and what they're moving and things like that. What's one of my favorite songs to play? I love so many. I don't even know. My Foolish Heart is so beautiful. Beautiful Love, I love so much. I Should Care. Those are a lot of my favorite tunes. Any other questions, guys, on... Okay, great. Any other questions on what I taught today in the podcast about the cocktail style? Oh, okay, James, sorry, I missed your question. Should you worry about cold calling versus email first, or is that not so much a thing like getting a film music gig? Yeah, cold calling is hard. Let me pull this up for you guys while I speak. So cold calling is real difficult, and I think it's a thing of the past. Like, most people operate through email these days. And so, and websites, emails and websites. So you want to have an email kind of presentation, kind of like a packet together. If you are interested in going down this route. And again, like, the website is the easiest place. Like, that should be your home base. So if you have a website that has clips of you, about you, where you're playing, all that stuff, right? That's going to be the best way to kind of get into getting gigs. Cold calling and things like that. It's not, it just doesn't, people don't do that really anymore. And even if you do get a hold of a manager or something like that, they're going to ask you if you have a website. They're going to ask for your website so they can check you out later, essentially. And then, after that, they'll either go, and you just have to keep following up. Excuse me. And the more you follow up, right, the better chance you have of getting that particular gig. And so, but it's all about follow-up, because people forget about you in a second. So if you send your promo kit somewhere, right, and no one's going to hire you on the spot. So you definitely have to keep following up all the time, emailing people, and it's a hustle. I mean, like, it's not for the faint of heart, I'll tell you that much, because you're going to get no's, and people are going to say, yeah, I'll look at it. They never look at it. You got to keep following up with them 3, 4, 5, 6 times, right? Until they finally do it. Like, you have to be kind of annoying to a point where people are like, all right, I'll look at your stuff. And you need to force people to make a decision ultimately, because these restaurant owners, these managers of the hotels, they're so busy. Like, the last thing, you're lucky to get someone who has like a person that does their booking for them. And that's a much easier process. Like, and there's a wine lounge around here that has a person who books all their music. And so he's solely focused on the booking of the music, which is really, really nice, because he gets to focus on that. So he's calm. He can talk to you. He can check out your materials and, like, you know, work with what you're giving him. Here's the link. Jason, there's the link to the Bill Evans course. So let me see. Yeah, David, no problem. Ray says, do you use substitute chords or upper structures, maybe polychords, for your fills, feathering, ad-libs? It's that's a great question. It has to do with the 7-step solo piano arranging system that I teach. The fills that are happening in between is a combination of improv voicings and sounds that I want to hear. So if I were to fill, like, usually if I'm not, okay, there's 2 different types of fills. You can fill below the melody, and you can also fill above the melody when you leave the melody. So there's two types of fills. So if I were to fill below the melody, you know, that's more or less using chord tones. Or I could add some extensions here. Right? I could add extension here. So there's ways I can kind of voice extensions in there. So these, like you asked me, right, these are not polychords. They're not upper structures, because everything's happening below the melody. I haven't left the melody yet. James, sorry, I just saw your question. Yeah, just keep following up. You just want to keep following up. Like, I follow up like 7 or 8 times with somebody, and then he finally hired me. You know, that's there. But if I leave the melody, so when I say leave the melody, I mean if I play the melody. Now, we have freedom to do this. I can let go of the melody and improv chords however I want. You know, I can do that. This is just like different types of voicings and fills. So like, this is just a drop 2, another drop 2, drop 2, harmonized extensions. I can fill like this, but yes, you can use upper structures as well. So, you know, going to here, when I go to my 2/5 here, like if there's no melody, there's not really any melody here. I can go, this is my A minor 7 flat 5 here. Here's an upper structure over my D7. So I led into that upper structure with a simple movement. And then I feathered a left-hand solo piano component going down. 3 or 10, 7, 1. Check it out again. Here's my voicing for my A minor 7 flat 5. I created a melody going up, which was my choice. And again, this is more or less feathering too. I'm creating these melodies based on feathering. So if I were to play a voicing like this, all I'm doing is I'm removing these top 3 notes, and I'm feathering the top 3 notes as a melody. Upper structure, right? So over a D7, this is an upper structure triad, okay? Or I'm just using a B flat major triad in second inversion. This is going to get me sharp 9, okay? Flat 13 and 1 on top. I don't really think about them as upper structures anymore, and once you get to a higher level, you'll just pick and choose your, right? I could also play this. You'll just pick and choose your extensions, more like painting on a canvas, like choosing the color that you want. But when you're starting out, and again, Ray, check out how to implement extensions by using upper structure triads in jazz piano school, because that will tell you exactly how to use them. You can think about this as B flat second inversion over your shells to your D7, and then I'm feathering the broken down here. Sorry, or I can feather this whole thing. So I can go, right? You can feather any voicing that you want, right? But again, if you break up your fills, Ray, into two sections, ones that happen within the melody, below the melody rather, and then fills that happen with no melody, where you have complete freedom, that's going to be the hardest part, because when you have more freedom, your mind starts to go, oh shoot, well, I have all these options now. I don't really know what to do. But take your voicing and feather that, so create like a voicing. So I created this voicing, and then I removed these three and created a melody with that. And then feathered that. Right? And then I'm onto my G minor here. And so let's say if my voicing was this, I could feather this whole thing. Like that. Just that's a quick answer to your question. Obviously, it goes more in depth than that, but what you covered during the podcast suggestions that you were only able to cover the tip of the iceberg, and that full-blown course could easily be devoted to the topic. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, this can go much more in depth. Maybe I will develop a cocktail style specialty course for jazz piano with a lot of these techniques. I think that would be pretty cool. But we're working on a stride course right now, specialty course, and I'm going to be developing an improv course as well. So, any other questions, guys? There's so many aspects that seem to be covered in greater depth, which understandably we're unable to do today because it's, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many other things that go into every style, right, that needs to be focused on. But fundamentally, like if any of you guys are not members, a lot of the foundational elements need to be learned first. So, and when I talk about that, I mean the seven solo piano components, left-hand solo piano components you need. Those need to be learned. Your two-hand voicing building system needs to be learned. These are all parts of the Success Path curriculum inside of Jazz Piano School. They're also one-off courses, too, inside of Jazz Piano School. There's a lot of fundamentals that the members learn. And from there, because they're learning certain tools in systematic processes, they're then able to create freedom because they have the tools in their tool bag to implement some of the higher end strategies that I teach, because they already have these systems and tools in their tool bag. Whereas, again, take myself for an example. When I was young, I didn't really develop these tools, nor did I have a teacher teaching me. I did a lot of what you guys do, is go hop onto the internet and watch people teach me. And, granted, like Interested Observer said, I can only get to so much, but it seemed like I was jumping all over the place, and nothing really kind of like built my foundation or led me down a path to learning certain tools that I needed to get to the higher levels. It was like I would jump on a lesson and I would learn like level 20 tip or like lesson, and then I'd go to like a level 2 lesson. Or I'd be working on like improv, like learn a bebop lick, and then you jump to this other thing, and it's like, oh, okay, like learn how to voice like Bill Evans. Like those things are completely unrelated. And so you can't expect to make forward progress when you're jumping around. Like if you work just on this one little lick of improv and then you jump to a Bill Evans voicing, which is another video that some pianist has on YouTube, right? You're not making forward progress. You're just picking and choosing these little like bits of information. I like to call them keys, right? So you're kind of collecting all these different types of keys, but then you have all these doors with locks, and you have no idea what key to use to open the first door. But you have thousands of keys because you have learned a lot of stuff, but you have no order. You have no order about which key you should use first to get to the next level, like to go through the door and then move through the next door. You just have a bag full of keys and like a room full of doors. That's essentially what learning jazz is. So again, a lot of the members here know I'm all about structure and path and organization. So James, is ear training particularly a big part of the beginner stage of the main course curriculum? Kind of bad about bypassed it. Might be great to do the podcast. Yeah, I've been thinking about ear training a lot because a lot of people ask about that, and it's a really interesting subject for me. But ear training, I have a lot of philosophies on ear training as well. One thing about ear training that I'll say, I don't want to get into it too much. Ear training is not a big part of the beginner course curriculum because ear training to me in the beginning stages of your playing is not that important. And my focus on ear training and what ear training is, like, again, it's another word that people throw around, like ear training, like, oh, you need ear training, like, but what is ear training? Like, what are you training your ear to do? What are you training it for? Why are you training it? What's the purpose? Right? Everyone has different goals. Everyone has different directions they want to move in jazz piano, and you can't just work on ear training, because again, you're kind of getting to that nebulous area. Like everyone thinks they need ear training, but like, what's your goal? Why do you want ear training, right? Is it to create voicings, or do you want to, there's a lot of things that we can do if we have the knowledge and understanding without really kind of like focusing on the ear training, But again, if I were to talk about ear training just a little bit, like ear training essentially is developing a relationship with the notes so you can understand and hear what that sound is going to express. Now, here's a great example that I came up with yesterday, an analogy. Our ears are getting trained every day. Like when we're in the world, if an ambulance drives by, as a baby, you don't know what that is, right? But clearly, we all know what an ambulance sounds like. We know what a siren sounds like. If a door slams, okay, we know what a door slamming sounds like. If a horn goes off, we know what these sounds like. Now, it's not because we sat there and listened to a horn going off, like, okay, play the, like, all right, honey, go ahead and press the horn. I'm gonna train my ear right now. All right, press it again. I gotta listen. Right? It's not really how it works, right? We just are in the world, and our ear starts to learn what these sounds are. So by going through the motions of learning in the philosophies that I teach and the structure, you're actually training your ear based on the exercises. Now, the exercises can train the ear, and I don't really talk about it because I know it's happening for the student, but I guess I should fill everyone in more. But when you play a voicing, let's say if you're in stage 5 of the main course curriculum success path, we're working on a lot on extensions, individual extensions, like the flat 9. So for example, if I were to play a flat 9 here, and I'm practicing my flat 9 extensions so I can plug them into all my chords. Here's my flat 9. Now I'm going to go to F7. I'm going to play a flat 9 here. Now I'm going to play a flat 9 here. Right? I'm playing all my flat 9s. Sorry. Right? And I just move through the keys here, and then I'm back to C. This exercise is training my ear, like whether you know it or not, to hear the sound of the flat 9. So I'm literally getting ear training out of this exercise. Right? Now, do I need to put on albums and hear the flat 9 in context? Yeah, for sure. But, like as you're focusing on learning the flat 9, just through the act of playing it, I'm literally hearing this sound and developing a relationship with it. Now, there's more modalities and layers to this that will develop my ear. Like, for example, working with it as an improv exercise. If I were to solo with my flat 9 a little bit, and maybe I add my sharp 9 in, the more I can try and improv with this, right? That's also going to develop my ear. So, ear training can kind of take on a lot of different avenues and paths. But, I think people put a lot of emphasis on ear training when, I guess, it depends on the education. So like inside a jazz piano school, like a lot of the education is built towards ear training already without the ear training course, but other education you may find out there, it's not as structured or organized, so you're not getting those particular ear training moments. So courses are built to help you train your ear, but I don't know what I'm just rambling right now. Ear training is great, but like it happens a lot naturally as you move through materials. All right, Ray. Guys, my voice is kind of going, so I'm going to go after this question. But I'm looking for a methodical approach to begin with to react to a chord symbol fill below the melody note. Okay, Ray, perfect. This is a great question. So a lot of people are in this area, right, where it's like if you see a piece, like a tune, and there's a melody note, like My Foolish Heart. Now we have a melody note and the chord is B flat major. So how do we fill here? Like how do we fill in this area? Okay, I'm going to go over this super fast. Inside of Jazz Piano School, this is going to be the 7-step solo piano arranging system. Okay, for all the members. And go to the solo piano system specialty course as well. There's a mini course, a specialty course, and it's in the success path. So what this is happening is basically, Ray, you need 3 things. You need your melody, your bass note, and your shells. So I have my melody. I'm going to need one of my left-hand solo piano components. That's another thing you need to know. So you're going to choose. There's a 7-step process I've created to teach everyone this, right, inside of Jazz Piano School. So like if I had A here, 1 and 7, I'm going to need my 3rd here. Now from here, I can start to move down my 7 steps. I'm not going to teach them here, but basically I can fill with chord tones now if I want. So I can add a 1 here. I can add the 5 here if I want. And I can also, now once I've filled with chord tones, I can start to add extensions. So I can maybe add the 9 here. So now I've just harmonized the melody, the first note of the melody in My Foolish Heart. Now I can change this. Let me go through the steps again. So these are the 3 things I need: melody, shells, and the root. Okay? So maybe I don't add the 5. Maybe I just add the 1 and the 9. Maybe add the sharp 11. So it's going to sound like this. Right? Completely different sound. Let's take the chord in Night and Day. Right? So here I have a different left-hand solo piano component. I have 1 and 10, flat 5, 7, melody. Right? So you need the shells. I shouldn't be using a flat 5 chord because it's going to get complicated. Let me take another. Let me see. I should care. So the first chord is D minor 7. Your melody is all the way up here. So you can voice this with a bass note here or down here. Let's say I choose down here. Again, I need melody, shells, and bass note always. My melody is a shell. So all I have to do is add the 3rd here and I'm good. From here, I have all this space now to start to harmonize and build my chord. So again, my steps, there's more steps that go into this, but I'm going fast. I can use my 5. I can use chord tones now. So I can fill with chord tones however I want. So I can do 7, maybe 3 again here. Now at this point, I can start to add extensions, right? So I can add the 9 here and the 11 if I want. I can do that. I can add the 13 here, right? And maybe the 11 here and the 9 here. That's pretty out, but I could do that. Right? I could also put my thumb here and free up my fingers a little bit. Maybe do 9 and 11 here. So that's going to be the process to essentially building and harmonizing your chord notes, right, in your tunes. And so by using this process, you'll be able to learn how to do that. Dan, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Yes. Awesome. Great. Dan, I love this, actually. I'm literally, the last couple of days I've been working, I said this earlier, but I put so much thought and attention into the membership area because so many things were broken before in 2.0 and some of our software systems that we were using weren't working. So I really wanted to, I obviously always want to make everything as great as it can be. And so we focused so much on the inside of Jazz Piano School, and there's still things that we need to improve, and I'm working on those daily, but the public facing pages and informational pages, I'm really working to clean up, and I was working on them a lot yesterday as far as what the options are, for Jazz Piano School, because we have so many courses now. I've created so much education, and my philosophies and structure have changed, and we have we have the success path curriculum, and we have the lab area, and we have the specialty courses area, right? There's 3 main areas inside. And so like you said, I'm working on sorting all these things out and really creating a nice overview video, a page that can really explain. It's hard to explain without seeing it, but really kind of give someone more insight into the way my system works. It's really hard to let someone know, because so many jazz piano sites out there are really kind of cookie cutter, like libraries. Like everyone wants to learn the blues, so you sign up for a website, you type in the blues, and you learn about the blues, or you want to learn how to play bebop, so you buy a bebop course, right? That's not what jazz piano school is about. I'm more about teaching everyone, my students, how to fish so you can eat for a lifetime, right? Whereas if you buy a bebop course, that's kind of just teaching you bebop. And like I said, it doesn't really, like, where does bebop fit into your journey? Where does it fit into the path? It's kind of giving you a part of the fish. Like it doesn't really teach you the whole experience of how to get your bait, how to get your line, like how to bait the line. Like, I'm going into the stupid analogy, but you see what I'm saying? And so, Dan, yeah, absolutely. It's a difficult thing from like an educational standpoint of like a business. Like, how do I explain this to people? But I am working on it right now. So I'm really working to clean up those public facing pages to help students understand why it's different, why jazz piano school is different. Sorry, guys. All right. So I think that's it, James. Yes, it's more of a subjective, but also subconscious process. Absolutely. That's not to say that there aren't amazing ear training exercises, and like it should be focused on in a different way. But we always want to ask ourselves, like, why? What's the why behind what we're doing? If you want ear training for certain things like chord progressions, like to hear the way a chord progression would sound if I play a C minor 7 going to an F7. That's a 1 to a 4 progression. Like, I know how that sounds in my ear, so I know what it's going to sound like before I play it. And that's really helpful for improvising chord progression. So if I wanted a chord progression that sounded like this, I could play that. If I wanted a chord progression that sounds like 1 to 4 minor, I would play this. I know what that sounds like before it happens. And if you're looking to do that, that's a specific type of training that you'd want to get into. Now, that's not particularly helpful for like hearing lines, like improvised lines, and this is why it's so important to get very specific and focused on the types of training that you're looking for, right? And the path that you want to move down. What are your goals? What are you looking to accomplish? Because you can make really, really fast progress in a short amount of time, but you need guidance. All of us need guidance around the tools, the elements that are going to be most important to get you to your goal, right? Just saying that I want to learn how to play jazz piano, that's like going out into the world, opening your door and saying, I want to be successful. Like, what do you want to be successful in? What do you want to do? How do you want to get there? There's so many different things, right? So the more we can focus on exactly what your goal is, the better off you're going to be to get there. Now, again, that's what I'm all about. I'm all about giving you the perfect information in a step-by-step order to help you make the most amount of progress in the shortest amount of time, right? And the more specific I can work with you on like certain elements or tools inside of jazz piano school or whatever, that's going to help you down a certain path. And again, a lot of you just want to learn jazz piano, and that's great. That's what our Success Path curriculum is for. So anyway, I'm starting to ramble again. Randy, thanks so much. I'm so glad everyone's enjoying it. We have special courses, part of the member buildings course or solo piano system. The specialty courses flat right now are by add-on only to our monthly membership. I'm thinking about changing this, but right now they're add-on only. So you don't have to be a member to buy them. You can buy them without being a member. But again, this is kind of what I was talking to Dan about. I'm cleaning up our products and our specialty course pages so that you can go to the website if you're interested in buying that. You can purchase our specialty courses without becoming a member. I do recommend that all people join as a member, because the Success Path curriculum is the highlight really of learning jazz, and it contains 6 stages that are all encompassing to learning jazz. Like, all the elements and philosophies I teach are put together in a systematic order that's going to be best learned and traveled down. Now, my analogy again is when you're traveling from point A to point B on a highway, right? You're going to get tired and you're going to need to pull off and take a pit stop and get food and go to the bathroom, right? That's what the other areas of jazz piano school are for. So like when you're going from point A to point B, learning jazz piano, everything you need on that highway, right? The lab, the specialty courses, right? These are going to be the fun things. Like maybe you pull off and you see an event like the biggest ball of yarn, maybe you want to go off and get a specialty course and learn about Bill Evans for a little bit. But guess what? After you have some fun, you refuel, you get your food, you go see some of these like side attractions off the highway, you get back on the highway, our main course curriculum success path, and you keep going down your journey because those elements in the success path is everything you need. It's like the core elements that everybody needs to learn to make progress and learn and implement with ease higher echelon tactics and things that will go over so much easier in your playing if you have these core elements. Cool. All right, guys, this will be... I want to post this within the members area so that everyone can see have I been doing this? I don't think so. So I'm going to take the full videos of these podcasts and actually post them in the members area. In the public domain, people don't get access to the Q&As and all this talking and things like that. And so, but you will, if you guys want to revisit anything I said here, you can watch the full video of this podcast in the public domain on the podcast, and what's published, it's just that little snippet of my recording that you all saw me do. All right, so I hope you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And sorry, I saw one thing come up. One thing I really wonder about is how to play bebop scales over other chords besides the one. It's hard to tell what the extra note is on those chords. Yes, Dan, just real quick, there's really not bebop scales for like all chords. Mainly it's going to be dominant in minor and major. So your dominant bebop scale and your minor bebop scale are actually the same, but just with a minor note. And again, inside of jazz piano school, the bebop scales are in stage 2, I believe. Just search in the search bar, type in bebop scales, they'll come up for you. But the major bebop scale is going to be a passing note between the 5 and the 6. The dominant bebop scale is going to be a passing note between the 1 and the 7. And the minor bebop scale is still a passing note between the 1 and the 7. But again, Charlie Parker, Dizzy, Bud Powell, these guys never really, they didn't really play a minor bebop scale. They just mainly used a dominant bebop scale the whole time. So they would use the dominant bebop scale. Awesome, Jason. Hey, thanks so much. If you need any help or anything like that, please let me know. And we're always waiting to help anybody inside the members area. So thank you so much. But yeah, they would just use the dominant bebop scale in solo. You kind of use that leading into the major 6 bebop scale. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, my voice is shot, guys. So I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll catch you guys all later. Okay, thanks so much for watching. And I'll post this for all the members, the full video, and also look out for the published podcast coming on Monday if you want to revisit this and you're not a member. Thanks.